Her Majesty was a young child during the 1930s. This was a decade that saw great upheaval and change in Britain. At the beginning of the 30s, there was mass unemployment, up to 22% unemployment in 1933. It was the advent of the Second World War in 1939 that started industry booming again. Many of the children who were evacuated from London to escape the impending bombing had never been to the countryside before. They had no idea what a farm was. By the end of the 30s, around 27% of the population owned their own home. And the average price of a suburban semi-detached house was £395. But then the average income in the 1930s was £192 per annum. Am I the only one who hasn't had a pay rise since then? The great age of cinema going in Britain was the 1930s, when most people went at least once and sometimes twice to see films such as The 39 Steps with the dashing Robert Donat. The Lady Vanishes with Margaret Lockwood, or Oh, Mr. Porter with Will Hay mucking about on the railways. It was the 1930s that saw the first colour cinema films begin to be made. By 1933, only half the households in Britain had a radio. Television began in 1936 when the BBC began broadcasting, but most homes didn't have a television until after the war. Children, can you imagine living without any television, mobile phone, or PlayStation? It sounds prehistoric, doesn't it? Sales of ice cream boomed in the 1930s, and many new kinds of sweets were introduced. These included Nuttall's Mintos, licorice all sorts, and sweet cigarettes. Yes, we actually used to teach our children to smoke cigarettes in the 1930s. And a brand new sweet in the 1930s was the Milky Bar. Do you remember the Milky Bar, kid? In 1934, both a speed limit of 30 miles per hour in built-up areas was introduced and a driving test. And also in 1934, Percy Shaw invented the cat's eye. You remember dashing into the road to tread on those squishy cat's eyes? The British Union of Fascists, led by Sir Oswald Mosley, sprang up, and the Communist Party of Great Britain started to attract young intellectuals to its core membership of industrial workers. New leisure activities boomed as young people flocked to dance halls, and Billy Butlin opened the first holiday camp in Bracing, Skegness in 1937. But of course, the most important aspect of the 1930s was hats. Everyone wore a hat. The businessman, the lady about town, the milkman. Yes, milk used to be delivered to your door, and they would take the empties away and recycle them. How postmodern is that? The suave gentleman, and of course, the young Princess Elizabeth. The 1930s, a decade of hope for some and impending doom for many.